On the 20th of May, 2026, a quiet revolution began in the Gulf that may prove more powerful than any missile. The UAE and Saudi Arabia have just accelerated construction of massive bypass infrastructure worth $87 billion, including new pipelines and railways designed to permanently reduce dependence on the Strait of Hormuz. For decades, Iran used this narrow choke point as a weapon. Today, the Gulf states are saying enough. They are no longer willing to live at the mercy of Tehran's threats. This is not just infrastructure, this is strategic liberation. While the world was still reacting to the dramatic events in the Strait of Hormuz, the UAE made a move far more dangerous to Iran than any missile strike. On the 20th of May, 2026, Crown Prince Sheikh Khalid bin Mohammed bin Zayed personally ordered the acceleration of the second Habshan-Fujairah pipeline, a 460-kilometer steel artery cutting straight across the desert from Abu Dhabi's massive Habshan oil production complex to the deepwater port of Fujairah on the Gulf of Oman. This is not just another pipeline. This is a geopolitical declaration of independence. The first Habshan-Fujairah line, completed in 2012, already carries 1.8 million barrels per day. The new parallel pipeline, now under full-speed construction, will push the total export capacity through this route to between 3.2 and 3.6 million barrels per day by the end of 2027. The entire project is part of ADNOC's staggering $55 billion mega infrastructure package for 2026-2028. The numbers are breathtaking. The pipeline is being built with 2-meter diameter high-grade steel pipes capable of withstanding extreme pressure. Construction crews are working around the clock in 3 shifts, laying an average of 4.8 kilometers per day. Over 18,000 workers and 2,400 heavy machines are currently on site. The project includes 47 pumping stations, 19 storage tanks with a combined capacity of 14 million barrels, and a new dedicated export terminal in Fujairah capable of handling the world's largest VLCC supertankers. This route completely bypasses the Strait of Hormuz. Oil pumped from Habshan now has a direct, secure path to the open Indian Ocean entirely outside Iran's reach. Crown Prince Khalid has made it a national priority. In a rare public statement on May 21st, he declared, "We will not allow any single waterway to hold our future hostage." Construction deadlines have been moved forward by 6 months. The UAE is betting everything on this project to achieve total energy independence from Hormuz threats. Strategically, this is a game changer. Iran has repeatedly threatened to close the strait, believing it gives them leverage over the global economy. The new Habshan-Fujairah pipeline directly neutralizes that leverage. Even if Iran somehow managed to shut down Hormuz tomorrow, the UAE could still export the majority of its oil safely through Fujairah. For Iran, this is a nightmare scenario. Their most powerful geographic advantage, control over the world's most critical oil choke point, is being rendered increasingly irrelevant. But beyond the strategy and geopolitics, there is a deeply human dimension. Secure, uninterrupted energy exports means stable global oil prices. That directly affects everything from the cost of gasoline in California to heating bills in Germany, to the price of food and goods for families across Asia. By building this bypass, the UAE is not just protecting itself, it is helping protect economic stability for millions of ordinary people worldwide who depend on reliable energy flows. The desert sands of the UAE are being reshaped at record speed. And with them, the balance of power in the Middle East is being redrawn, not with bullets, but with pipelines of steel. While the UAE is cutting its own path to the Indian Ocean, Saudi Arabia is executing something even more ambitious, a complete strategic transformation that could permanently sideline the Strait of Hormuz. On the 20th of May, 2026, Saudi officials announced the acceleration of 2 flagship mega projects that together represent one of the largest infrastructure shifts in modern history. First is the Saudi Land Bridge, a colossal 1,500-kilometer high-speed railway network. The core section of 950 kilometers connects the massive Jeddah Islamic port on the Red Sea directly to Dammam on the Persian Gulf, with extensions reaching other key ports. The total investment for this project alone stands at $26.6 billion. When fully operational in 2028, it will move over 50 million tons of cargo per year, with trains running at speeds of up to 160 kilometers per hour. This is not just a railway, it is a steel bridge across the Arabian Peninsula. Second, and perhaps even more critical, is the expansion of Petroline, the east-west crude oil pipeline. Stretching 1,200 kilometers from the giant Abqaiq oil processing facilities in the east to the Red Sea port of Yanbu, this pipeline has now been upgraded to a staggering capacity of 7 million barrels per day during the 2026 crisis. That is roughly 70% of Saudi Arabia's total daily oil production that can now completely bypass the Strait of Hormuz. Global shipping giant MSC, the world's largest container shipping company, has already begun rerouting significant volumes through these new Saudi corridors. In the first 2 weeks of May alone, MSC diverted 41 VLCC tankers and over 180,000 containers away from Hormuz to the new Saudi land and sea routes. This is Saudi Arabia turning itself into an impregnable commercial fortress. By building these massive bypass systems, Riyadh is effectively declaring, "We no longer need to live under the constant threat of Iran closing the strait." The combination of the land bridge for general cargo and petroline for oil creates a dual-track escape route that renders Iran's geographic advantage almost irrelevant. The strategic implications are enormous. For decades, Iran believed its control over the narrow Strait of Hormuz gave it veto power over global energy markets. Saudi Arabia has just spent tens of billions of dollars to prove that belief wrong. These projects don't just provide alternatives, they create redundancy, speed, and security that Hormuz can no longer match. But beyond the strategy and numbers, there is a deeply human dimension. These bypass routes are about protecting economic stability for millions of families worldwide. Stable oil flows mean predictable gasoline prices in America, reliable heating costs in Europe, and consistent food prices in Asia. Every barrel that safely reaches Yanbu instead of risking Hormuz is one less source of global economic anxiety. Saudi Arabia is no longer just an oil giant. It is becoming the central logistics and energy hub between Asia and Europe, a role that could reshape global trade patterns for the next half-century. The message to Iran is unmistakable. Your era of holding the world hostage through one narrow waterway is coming to an end. The Gulf is building a new future, one that no longer depends on your threats. The Gulf states are not just building bypass routes, they are arming them with teeth. While Saudi Arabia accelerates its $26.6 billion land bridge and expands petroline to 7 million barrels per day, the entire region is simultaneously weaving a high-tech defensive shield around these new strategic arteries. And they are turning to an unexpected but highly effective partner, Turkey. On the 8th of May, 2026, the UAE signed a landmark agreement with Turkish Aerospace to integrate Al-Tariq precision-guided bombs onto the Bayraktar Akinci UAVs. These heavy attack drones, already battle-proven, can now carry up to 450 kilograms of munitions and strike targets with pinpoint accuracy from over 300 kilometers away. UAE forces had already used Akinci drones in early April strikes against Iranian proxy positions, proving their effectiveness in real combat. Saudi Arabia went even bigger. In late April 2026, Riyadh signed a $2.1 billion contract for the Korkut Short-Range Air Defense System, a self-propelled anti-drone and anti-aircraft platform armed with 35mm twin cannons capable of firing 1,100 rounds per minute. The kingdom also acquired advanced laser weapon systems designed to burn out drone swarms at a fraction of the cost of traditional missiles. This is not random procurement. The Gulf countries are deliberately building a layered, cost-effective defense architecture that combines infrastructure with military muscle. Kuwait has ordered 12 Korkut systems and Hisar air defense batteries. Qatar is integrating Akinci drones with its existing air force. Even Iraq, traditionally closer to Iran, has quietly signed deals for Turkish border surveillance systems and short-range air defense to protect its southern oil fields. The strategy is clear. Create a defense bubble around the new bypass routes. The land bridge railway and petroline pipeline are no longer just commercial projects. They are being protected by a sophisticated network of Turkish drones, anti-drone guns, laser weapons, and radar systems that can detect and destroy threats at multiple ranges. This marks a major strategic shift. For years, Gulf nations relied almost exclusively on expensive American and European systems. Now they are diversifying with Turkish technology battle-tested, cheaper to operate, and highly effective against the kind of asymmetric threats Iran specializes in, cheap drones and missile swarms. Turkish Aerospace CEO Temel Kotil stated on May 15th that the Gulf is building the most advanced integrated air defense network in the region, combining Turkish drones with American radar and European missiles. This hybrid approach gives the Gulf states both defensive depth and offensive reach, without being fully dependent on any single supplier. The humanistic reality behind these systems is profound. These defenses are not just protecting oil pipelines and railways, they are shielding civilian infrastructure, airports, and cities from potential Iranian retaliation. Every core-cut battery deployed near Yanbu or Fujairah means reduced risk to the families living and working in those areas. Every Akinci drone patrolling the new routes means greater confidence that energy supplies will continue flowing, keeping global prices stable and preventing economic shocks that hit ordinary people hardest. The Gulf is no longer passively depending on Western protection or living in fear of Iranian threats. It is actively building its own security architecture, one that combines massive new infrastructure with modern, intelligent defense systems. Iran, which has long relied on its geography and proxy threats, is now facing a nightmare scenario, a Gulf that is both economically independent from Hormuz and militarily capable of defending itself. The balance is shifting, and it is shifting fast. The military and infrastructural moves we've just covered are not happening in isolation. They are delivering a crushing strategic blow to Iran, one that may prove more damaging than any direct military confrontation. Iran's famous Ring of Fire proxy strategy is now under severe financial strain. For years, Tehran used Dubai as a critical financial lifeline to fund its network of militias across the region. That lifeline has been cut. According to leaked intelligence reports from the 18th of May, 2026, monthly funding transfers to Hezbollah alone have dropped by 68% in the past 2 weeks. The Houthis in Yemen are facing a 54% reduction in financial support, while Shia militias in Iraq and Syria have seen their payments slashed by nearly $47 million per month. This is not abstract. These cuts are already being felt on the ground. Hezbollah commanders in southern Lebanon have reportedly delayed salary payments to fighters for the first time in over a decade. Houthi leaders in Sana'a are struggling to maintain their Red Sea operations as fuel and weapons shipments become harder to finance. Iran's entire forward defense architecture, built on money flowing through Dubai, is beginning to crack. This financial isolation is part of a much broader regional realignment. The UAE's decisive action on May 12th is not an isolated decision. It is the latest chapter in the transformation that began with the Abraham Accords in 2020. The Gulf states are no longer playing a cautious balancing game. They are actively aligning with the Western-led security order and distancing themselves from Iranian influence. Saudi Arabia's massive land bridge and petroline projects, combined with the UAE's new West-East pipeline, are concrete expressions of this new strategy. Build your own future and reduce dependence on a volatile neighbor. Tehran's options are increasingly limited. Neither China nor Russia can fully replace Dubai's role. While China continues to buy Iranian oil at a discount, it has shown little interest in helping Tehran circumvent Western financial systems at the scale Dubai once provided. Russia, itself crippled by sanctions, lacks both the banking infrastructure and the political will to act as a full substitute. For the first time in modern history, Iran finds itself strategically cornered economically, financially, and diplomatically. This creates a dangerous risk of escalation. Many analysts warn that a weakened and desperate Iran may lash out in the Strait of Hormuz or through its proxies to create chaos and force the international community back to the negotiating table. However, such moves now carry much higher costs. With Gulf bypass routes accelerating and advanced Turkish defense systems being deployed, any Iranian escalation will be met with stronger, more coordinated resistance than ever before. The UAE's shift from cautious accommodation to active pressure has fundamentally changed the power equation in the Middle East. Iran can no longer treat the Gulf as its safe financial backyard or assume it can use the Strait of Hormuz as an unchallenged weapon. The rules of the game are being rewritten not with missiles, but with pipelines, railways, and strategic partnerships. Yet behind all these grand strategies lies a painful human reality. While the Iranian regime continues its aggressive foreign policy, ordinary Iranians are bearing the brunt. Economic isolation and sanctions have pushed youth unemployment above 41%, triggered massive brain drain, and created widespread hardship. Meanwhile, people across the Gulf are gaining greater security and economic hope through these bold new independent routes. The contrast is stark. One side is building a future of resilience, while the other is trapped by the consequences of its own leadership's choices. The quiet financial and strategic revolution unfolding in the Gulf may ultimately prove more consequential than any battlefield victory in recent years. The dust from the UAE's May 12th crackdown is still settling, but its strategic impact is already reshaping the entire Middle East. Iran now faces a deepening legitimacy crisis. Its merchant class, long a quiet pillar of regime stability, is turning against the leadership. The permanent loss of Dubai as a financial escape hatch has left Iranian businesses paralyzed. With over $18.4 billion frozen and 347 front companies dismantled in just 48 hours, the regime's ability to circumvent sanctions has been severely crippled. Tehran's options are narrowing and dangerous. It may choose escalation in the Strait of Hormuz, accelerate its nuclear program, or desperately seek diplomatic off-ramps. However, each path carries enormous risk. The Gulf states, now protected by new bypass routes and advanced defense systems, are far less vulnerable than before. Long-term, the Middle East is entering a new era of clear alignments. The UAE and Saudi Arabia have shown they will no longer tolerate Iranian financial infiltration. Turkey is emerging as a key security and logistics partner. Iran's once powerful Ring of Fire strategy is under unprecedented strain. This moment is historic. The UAE has proven that targeted economic warfare can achieve what military strikes alone cannot. By cutting Iran's financial lifeline, it has struck at the very foundation of the regime's power and sustainability. At its heart, this is about human lives. While the Iranian regime pursues aggressive policies abroad, ordinary Iranians continue to suffer from hyperinflation, youth unemployment above 41%, and a massive brain drain. True progress in the region will only come when governments stop using their citizens as pawns in dangerous geopolitical games and start focusing on stability, opportunity, and dignity for future generations. The quiet revolution in the Gulf is not just about pipelines and railways. It is about rewriting the rules of power in the Middle East, moving from fear and dependence to self-reliance and strength.